Hello to my favorite 7th grade math students. We are here for your next episode of the Kearney Math Show. Today we are featuring mini lesson 1 from unit 6. So we are starting a new unit today, all about percents. And percents are super, super important. So I want to make sure that you are as focused as you can be, because this unit, I think, is probably one of the most important units that you're going to do all year. Because think about it, percents are everywhere. When you go shopping, you've got percents, 25% off. When you go to the cash register to check out, you've got to pay 7% tax. When you eat at a restaurant, you usually leave a 10 or 15% tip. When you put money in a bank account, it earns a certain percentage of interest. So you're going to find that we're going to see percentages everywhere. So this is super important. Just to remind you my expectations, and I know you guys know this already, I want to see that you are writing everything down on your mini lesson that you see on mine. I also want to see that you're pausing the video if you have questions and jotting down questions so you can ask me when you come to my station. I'm going to be doing the mini lesson a little bit differently today. Instead of me writing everything on the board, I'm going to be clicking, and you're going to see some images appear, and whatever appears in red, I need for you to write down on your mini lesson. So take just a minute to read our learning goal. Perfect. So today we're talking about how to convert from percentages to fractions and decimals, and back and forth between all of those. Before we get started, go ahead and write at the top of your mini lesson that this is entry number 1. So let's take just a minute to write at the top entry number 1. And you should have gotten a new table of contents today, so you can update your table of contents. So before we get started, let's just look at what some pictures that we can represent fractions, decimals, and percentages based on these pictures. So thinking back to 6th grade, looking at these pictures here, how would you write a fraction? Okay, so some things to think about as you're doing this is you are wanting, give me just a second, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. I want to make sure that, okay, so it appears that my images are not appearing as I need them to appear. So that's okay. Ms. Kearney's going to write them on the board. No big deal. Okay, so as you are, so I'm going to walk away and walk to the board. So I'm going to get a little bit louder. You have to listen very carefully. So just remember from 6th grade, when you look at these pictures, you see that you see a picture and part of it shaded in. That's what a percentage is. A percentage is part of a whole. So when you hear the word percent, just break that word percent down into its syllables. Percent. Percent means per 100. When you think about the word cent, how many cents does it take to make $1? 100. How many years are in a century? 100. How many legs does a centipede have? 100. So the word percent, that root word cent means 100. So percent means per 100. So when we look at these pictures, this is a perfect representation of per 100. You see 100 little tiny boxes, and if you count, there are actually 25 of them shaded in. So if I wanted to write a fraction, decimal, and a percent, we'd say there are 25 out of the 100 shaded in. So 25 per 100. Now if I wanted to write that as a decimal, 25 100ths would be 0.25, 0.25 hundredths. And then that as a percent, when we say 25 out of 100, that means 25 per 100, so 25%. Okay, we're going to talk about how to convert all of these a little bit later. So take just a minute and see if you can fill in the next two. So take just a moment to read. If you'd like to pause the video, you can pause the video at this time and try the next one. That's right, go ahead and pause the video. All right, and we're back. So the next one you should have gotten, there were 30 shaded out of the 100, which for me, it's easy for me to go ahead and simplify. That's 3 out of 10. So if I wrote that as a decimal, it would be 3/10. And coming back to this is 30 out of 100, 30 per 100, 30 per cent. So that is just giving you kind of a visual representation of a percent per 100 out of 100. So anytime you see the word percent, that means you don't have all of it. You only have a certain percentage, and it's out of the total 100%. So today we're going to just be talking about how to convert from a percent to a fraction, how to convert from a decimal to a percent, and how to go from a percent to a decimal and a fraction to a percent. So let's start right here going from a percent to a fraction. So part of it we've already said. Percent means per 100. So, or we could say out of 100. If you have all of something, you have 100% of it. So that means if you only have 25%, you only have 25 out of the 100%. So percent is actually comparing a part to the whole. Okay? Part to the whole. So part is the, let's say 25% would be 25 would be my part. My whole would be out of 100. So 25 out of 100. So when you read this right here, 36%, 36% means 36 out of 100. So we could write 36 over 100, which then simplifies down to 9 out of 25. So when you are trying to go from a percent to a fraction, literally all you need to do is read it. And when you see percent, that just means write it out of 100. So when you have 43% here, you have 43 per 100. So 43 out of 100. So when you write it, just write it as a fraction over 100 and then simplify. And that one we can't simplify. Let's go to the next one. 88%. That means 88 out of 100. And then if I simplify that down, that would simplify down to 22 out of 25. Okay? So you could either now pause the video and try number 3 and number 4, or when you are done with the video, I would love for you to come back and try those because I'm going to want to check those when you come to my station later. Okay? So, the next section, we're now going from a decimal to a percent. So if you take a look down here where we're going, we're trying to start with this decimal and go to a percent. And this is super duper easy. So, to change a decimal to a percent, you can do one of two things. Okay? One way is you can multiply by 100. Okay? Because what you're trying to do is if we're trying to get it to a percent, we're trying to get it out of 100, which means we're trying to move that place value 2 places. Okay? The other thing you can do is to go from a decimal to a percent. This is the easiest way, guys. You can simply, right here, I'm going to star that one. You can move the decimal 2 places to the right. And then you're going to put the percent sign. So, the way that I remember that is I think about 100 has 2 zeros. So therefore, if I'm trying to get to a percent, I'm going to move the decimal 2 places. And then what I always remember too is I'm going towards the percent sign. So 0.2, I'm going to go towards the percent sign. So I'm going to go 1, 2, add a 0, and add my percent sign. So that's 20%. Okay? The next one, I'm 1.08 I need to move it to a percentage. So I'm going to go towards the percent sign. 1, 2, add my percent sign, and that's 8%. Okay? So now you can either pause the video or come back and try problems 3 and 4. Okay, moving right along, and feel free, like I said, if I'm talking really fast, make note of the questions or pause the video, and you can always ask me when you come to my station. Okay, the next section, we are now going from a percent back to decimal. So we're kind of going in the reverse order. which is actually also super simple. Okay, so we're actually going to just do the opposite of what we just did. So instead of multiplying by 100, we're going to, the opposite of multiplying is we can divide by 100. Okay, or an even easier way is instead of moving the decimal to the right 2 places, we're going to do the opposite of that. So we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. And then we're going to move the percent sign. So how I remember to do that is I'm trying to get rid of the percent sign. So I'm trying to move away from it. So my decimal is at the end, 72%. I want to get rid of that percent sign, so we're going to go away from it 2 places. And so it's 0.72, and I drop the percent sign. Okay? Next one. My decimal's at the end. I want to get rid of that percentage sign, so I'm going to move it 2 places to the left and drop that percentage sign. Okay? And you can come back to those practice problems in just a few minutes. And our very last section, and I know that this was actually something that was probably super important for us to know on this benchmark. So this is a really good reminder for us of how to go from a fraction to a percent. Okay? So we're trying to get from a fraction to a percent. So for me, I'm just going to remind myself that a percent is part out of the whole. Okay? So there are 2 ways we can solve this. One is we can use a proportion to solve. Or what I think is even easier is we can change the fraction to decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator and then move the decimal 2 places to the right. So for example, if I have 4 this, and that's your first example down here, I want to go to a percent. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is I need to go from this fraction to a decimal. And then I can go from a decimal to a percent. So to do that, I'm going to divide the numerator by the denominator and then move the decimal 2 places. So that means 4 divided by 5. I'm going to just quickly divide that. 5 doesn't go into 4, but it goes into 40. 8 times, 5 times 8 is 40. So I get 0.8. So 4/5 is 0.8, but then I want to make that into a percentage. So then I'm going to move that decimal now. I'm trying to get towards the percent sign. So I'm going to move it 2 places to the right and add my percent sign, so that's 80%. Okay? So just to recap, you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator, and that gives you a decimal, and then you want to move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, so I've just given you lots of different tips. I've taught you 4 different things you can convert. Okay, how to go from a percent to a fraction, a decimal to a percent back to a decimal, and a fraction to a percent. So that's a lot. So if you have any questions, please go back and re-watch the video, re-look at examples. And at this time, what I want you to do is until you come see me, what I want to see you doing is working through those extra practice that we skipped over. And you can check the answer key at the back table and go ahead and start on those practice problems. All right, guys? Can't wait to see you at my station. Make me proud. Do your best. Peace out, Rainbow Trout. Love you, mean it. XOXO.